The night was calm around the Silver Ridge Observatory. High in the mountains, the air was cold and thin, and the sky looked endless. Stars glimmered like dust scattered on black glass. Inside the control room, only one light was on, a small desk lamp that cast a golden circle on the desk where Dr. Ilara Quinn sat, staring at her screen. Ilara had been there since sunset. She was not tired, not yet, but her eyes were dry from staring at data for too long. The coffee beside her was cold, but she still drank it, more out of habit than need. The silence of the observatory felt heavy, broken only by the low hum of cooling fans and the steady ticking of the old wall clock. She loved nights like this, quiet, predictable, filled with numbers and stars. Nothing unexpected ever happened here. Until it did. At exactly 2:17 a.m., there was a sound. A single soft knock. Ilara froze. No one should be here. The mountain road was closed at night, and she was the only researcher on shift. Her first thought was wind. Maybe something had fallen or an animal brushed against the outer door. But then again, a second later, knock. Just once, clear, calm. As if whoever was outside was patient, Ilara stood up slowly. The main door to the observatory was thick and made of reinforced glass, meant to keep the equipment safe. She walked toward it, her shoes making soft echoes on the floor. Through the glass, she saw a shape. It was a woman. The stranger stood straight under the moonlight, her face hidden by the shadow of the hood she wore. Her clothes didn't look like hiking gear or any kind of uniform. They looked smooth, almost like fabric that shimmered when the light touched it. Ilara hesitated. She thought about calling security, but there was none on site at night. The nearest guard station was 20 kilometers away. She could radio the main institute, but curiosity won first. She pressed the intercom button beside the door. Yes? Who's there? She said, her voice a little shaky. The woman looked up. Her eyes reflected the dim light strangely. Not glowing, but catching light in a way that seemed alive. Apologies for the hour, the woman said softly. Her voice was calm, clear, and strangely musical. May I come in? I believe you've been trying to find me. Ilara frowned. Find you? I think you have the wrong place. This is a research facility. I know, the woman said. You've been observing a signal, a repeating pattern in the background radiation. You called it an anomaly. I am that anomaly, Ilara's heart skipped. That made no sense. For weeks she had been analyzing a faint rhythmic distortion in the cosmic background, something that appeared and disappeared in perfect intervals. It wasn't noise and it wasn't random. She had written 2 papers about it, both rejected because no one could verify her data. You're saying you sent that signal? She asked carefully. The woman smiled faintly. In a way. Before Ilara could react, the door clicked. The observatory's security system should have required her keycard to open, but it slid open silently as if it chose to. A cool breeze entered, carrying the faint scent of ozone, like the air after lightning. Ilara stepped back as the woman entered. She wasn't threatening. In fact, she moved with quiet grace, every motion deliberate and peaceful. Who are you? Ilara asked, her curiosity rising above fear. My name is Ari, the woman said. I am an emissary of a civilization that does not exist in your records. Ilara blinked. You mean you're not from Earth? Ari tilted her head slightly as if amused. Not in the way you mean it. The scientist in Ilara wanted to laugh, but she didn't. There was something in Ari's presence that made laughter feel out of place, almost disrespectful. Instead, she gestured toward the desk. Sit down, please. Maybe you can explain what you mean. Ari nodded and sat across from her, folding her hands neatly on the table. Her skin seemed faintly luminous, not like light shining from within, but like her body remembered the stars. You've been searching for signs of intelligence beyond your world, Ari said. You sent messages into the void and listened for replies. You believed nothing answered. But something did. Ilara leaned forward. The anomaly. Yes, Ari said. It is not a signal in your usual sense. It is a pattern of resonance, thought imprinted in the background of space-time. Most species cannot perceive it. Yet somehow you found it. Ilara shook her head in disbelief. That's impossible. We don't even have the technology to... Ari smiled gently. Technology is not what found it, you did. Curiosity did. Those words hung in the air like a soft chime. Ilara had always believed human curiosity was their greatest strength. The reason they looked at stars, asked questions, built machines, and refused to stop searching. But hearing it from someone, something not human, made her chest tighten. "Why come here now?" Alara asked after a moment. "Why reveal yourself?" Ari looked at her with an expression that was hard to read, part wonder, part sadness. "Because your discovery has begun to echo. You have opened a door that even we could not open before. And doors," she said, glancing toward the observatory entrance, "have a habit of letting things through." Alara's stomach turned slightly. "You mean something else might hear it?" "Everything hears it," Ari replied quietly. "The universe is listening now." Silence filled the room again. The ticking clock sounded louder. Outside, the wind moved gently across the dome. Alara felt a strange mix of fear and pride. Fear because something vast and unknown was watching them now. Pride because it was humanity that made the universe listen. Ari stood and walked to the main screen where Alara's graphs flickered faintly in green lines. With one wave of her hand, the display changed. Symbols appeared, not in any known language. Yet somehow Alara understood their rhythm. They weren't words. They were harmonics. The same pattern as the anomaly. "What is this?" Alara whispered. "Proof," Ari said simply. "That consciousness itself leaves a mark on reality. That thought is a measurable force." Alara stared at the screen, amazed. "If that's true, everything we know about physics, about life, will have to be rewritten." Ari finished for her. "Yes, and that is why I came. To help you understand what you have touched." For the next few hours, they spoke in low voices. Alara asked questions, hundreds of them, and Ari answered most, though not all. Some answers came in equations, some in stories about distant civilizations that learned too quickly and fell silent. Others were questions returned as if Ari was learning about humans as much as Alara was learning about her. At one point, Alara asked, "Why do you sound human? You look and speak like us." Ari smiled again. "Perhaps your kind and mine are not as far apart as you think. Maybe thought shapes form, and you have simply imagined us into familiarity." It was a strange thought, but somehow it made sense. By the time the horizon began to pale, the two women stood outside the observatory dome, watching the last stars fade. The mountain air was sharp and cold. "Will you come back?" Alara asked softly. Ari looked toward the rising light. "I am always where you listen. The next time you hear the anomaly, you will understand it better." She paused, then added, "Be careful what you teach the universe to hear. It always answers one way or another." And then, without a sound, she stepped back. The air shimmered faintly around her like heat rising from stone, and she was gone. Alara stood alone, her breath visible in the morning air. For a long time, she didn't move. She just looked at the door, the one that had opened itself when Ari arrived, and felt the world shift under her feet. When she finally went back inside, she noticed the main console still glowing. The anomaly signal was stronger now, its rhythm pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Alara smiled faintly. "I guess the universe is awake now," she murmured. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, something answered, a soft echo that no one else could hear. That night, humanity had knocked once. The following night felt different at Silver Ridge Observatory. The air was still sharp and cold, but the silence had weight now, like the mountain itself was waiting for something. Dr. Alara Quinn sat at her desk again, staring at the monitor. The signal in the anomaly hadn't faded. In fact, it was stronger. The rhythmic pulse that had once been faint static was now clear and deliberate, repeating in intervals that almost sounded alive. It reminded her of a heartbeat. All day she had tried to explain it logically. Maybe an equipment malfunction. Maybe an echo from a satellite. But none of her instruments were broken, and no orbiting object matched the pattern. The more she analyzed it, the more it seemed to respond, as though it was aware she was studying it. Alara rubbed her temples and looked at the door. No one had come since that night. No one had knocked. She wasn't sure if Ari had been real. Maybe exhaustion had made her hallucinate. Maybe the visitor was her brain's way of giving shape to her discovery. But then the door, it had opened on its own. The graphs had changed in ways no human system could. There was no denying something had happened. The sun dipped below the horizon again, and shadows stretched long across the dome. The observatory lights dimmed automatically as the sensors detected nightfall. Alara took a slow breath, trying to focus. She needed data, Evidence, not dreams. She opened her notebook and began writing. Day 42 of anomaly observation. Signal continues. Amplitude has doubled. Source, unknown. Hypothesis, response behavior observed when focused analysis applied. She stopped. Response behavior. That was not scientific language. It sounded like she was describing a conversation, not a measurement. Before she could cross it out, the signal on her screen flickered. One sharp pulse, then silence. Alara frowned and checked her instruments. All readings froze. The air felt heavier, as if the oxygen itself had slowed down, and then a sound. Not a knock this time, but a tone. A single note that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It wasn't loud, but it vibrated deep in her chest. The lights dimmed slightly, and the room filled with a faint blue shimmer like mist. Alara stood up. "Ari?" she whispered, feeling ridiculous for saying it aloud. The air shimmered again, and the same soft light formed near the console. Slowly it took shape, the outline of a figure clear as moonlight on water. It was her. Ari. Only this time she looked different. The faint glow around her skin was stronger, and her eyes held a light that pulsed in rhythm with the signal on the screen. "Alara," Ari said, her voice calm and kind. "You heard the call," Alara swallowed. "You came back," Ari nodded gently. "You asked and the universe answered." Alara looked at the monitor. The signal was now displaying new data, not random waves, but shapes. The lines curved into spirals, loops, and intersections. It looked like an equation, but not in any language Alara had seen. "What is it?" she asked. Ari looked at the display. "It is not a message. It is a reflection, the echo of your own observation." Alara frowned. "I don't understand." Ari stepped closer. "When you watched the anomaly, your mind became part of it. Consciousness and observation are not separate things, Alara. You looked at the universe, and for the first time the universe looked back." Ilara's breath caught. "You're saying I changed it, just by noticing it?" Ari smiled faintly. "Every species reaches this point eventually, the moment they realize awareness is not a byproduct of the universe, but a force within it. You humans call it curiosity. We call it resonance." Ilara sat down, overwhelmed. "So, this equation isn't something I discovered. It's something I created?" "Not created," Ari corrected softly. "You revealed it. It was always there, waiting to be seen." They stood in silence for a while, watching the strange symbols flow across the screen. They weren't fixed, and they moved, almost breathing. When Alara reached out her hand toward the display, the symbols shifted in response, forming new patterns. "It reacts to you," Ari said, "because you are thinking. Every thought leaves a trace. You have found the bridge between mind and matter." Ilara's voice was quiet. "That's impossible." "Most truths are," Ari said with a faint smile. Alara looked at her. "Why are you telling me this? Why me?" Ari hesitated, her expression softening. "Because humanity is ready, or very close to ready. You stand at the edge of understanding something many civilizations never reach. Most destroy themselves before they learn what it means to truly listen." Ilara frowned. "Listen to what?" "To everything," Ari said simply. "To the background hum of existence. To the way your own thoughts ripple outward, shaping the world you live in. To the voices of other beings who have been waiting for someone to notice them." Ilara leaned forward, eyes wide. "You mean there are others? Other civilizations?" Ari nodded slowly. "Thousands. But they speak not in words or light, but in resonance. When you learn to listen, you will hear them." Ilara's heart beat faster. "Then why don't they talk to us directly?" Ari looked almost sad. "Because most of them forgot how. They built machines to think for them. They silenced their own resonance with noise and fear. But you're kind, and you still wonder. You still question. That makes you dangerous. And beautiful." For the first time, Ilara noticed a kind of emotion in Ari's voice. Admiration. Maybe even hope. "You said something last time," Ilara said quietly. "You said we opened a door." "What did you mean by that?" Ari turned to the window, looking at the stars. "When you discovered the anomaly, you sent a signal that consciousness could be measured. You showed the universe that self-awareness has weight. That signal travels faster than light, because it does not move through space. It moves through thought, and others have heard it." Ilara felt a chill. "Others?" "Yes," Ari said. "Some will come to learn. Some will come to teach. Some will come to see what kind of beings could do what you did. You have made humanity visible. Alara stared at her. Is that safe? Ari's expression softened again. That depends on how you respond. The universe mirrors the energy you send into it. If you reach with curiosity and peace, you will be met the same way. If you reach with fear or greed. She didn't finish the sentence. Alara sat in silence. Her heart was racing, but her mind was clear. She realized that humanity had done something no one could undo. They had made their thoughts heard beyond their world. What do I do now? She asked quietly. Ari smiled. Learn, record, share your discovery. But remember, Alara, this is not just science. It is a conversation. Every calculation you make, every question you ask becomes part of the dialogue. Alara nodded slowly. And you? Will you stay? I exist where resonance exists, Ari said. When you understand enough, you won't need me to appear. You will hear me in the signal itself. A faint light began to rise around her again. The glow was gentle, like dawn behind a curtain. Ari, wait, Alara said quickly. Before you go, what happens if we stop listening? Ari looked at her, eyes full of something ancient and kind. Then the universe will grow quiet again, and that would be the greatest loss of all. The light brightened, and then she was gone. Alara sat alone in the observatory, the hum of the machines returning to normal. The symbols on the screen slowly faded into a soft pulse, the same rhythm as before. She leaned back, heart full of thoughts she couldn't explain. Maybe she had dreamed it all. Maybe not. But when she closed her eyes, she could still hear the faint tone, gentle, endless, and patient, like the heartbeat of reality itself. She turned back to her notebook and wrote, her hands trembling slightly. Observation continues. Signal appears responsive to focused thought. Hypothesis. Consciousness interacts directly with the quantum field. Notes, the universe might not be silent. It might be waiting to be heard. Outside, dawn touched the mountain peaks with gold. The first rays of sunlight entered the observatory. Glinting off her coffee mug, Alara smiled to herself and whispered, Good morning, universe. The signal pulsed once, as if in reply, and the night once again was changed forever. The days that followed were unlike any Alara Quinn had ever known. She no longer counted time in hours or shifts, but in heartbeats and pulses, in the rhythm of the signal that now lived quietly on her screens. The anomaly had changed. It no longer appeared random or broken. It moved in waves, slow and gentle, matching the exact tempo of her breathing when she sat in stillness. At first she thought it was coincidence, but the more she paid attention, the more she saw it. The signal was mirroring her state of mind. When she was calm, it was calm. When she grew frustrated, the pattern turned restless. It was not data anymore. It was dialogue. She had told no one. The Research Institute had already dismissed her first reports as instrument interference. If she sent them this, that the universe was somehow responding to her thoughts, they would call it madness. So she kept it to herself, a secret conversation between one woman and something infinite. Every night she returned to the observatory, and every night the signal waited for her. It never failed. Sometimes she spoke to it softly, whispering her thoughts aloud, questions, hopes, small stories about her day. And sometimes, just sometimes, the rhythm on the screen would pulse twice. A quiet reply. It was peaceful, comforting, like talking to the stars and hearing them hum back. Still, she missed Ari. Days turned into weeks. The snow on the mountains melted into spring, and the world below went on unaware of what was happening above. But Alara knew. She could feel that. Something was building, something vast and gentle like a tide drawing closer. Then one night, it happened again. The air shifted. A soft tone filled the room, low and harmonic, vibrating in her chest like the memory of a heartbeat. The lights flickered. Alara turned toward the sound, her heart racing, not from fear, but from recognition. Ari, she whispered, and there she was. This time, Ari's presence was brighter, almost radiant. The glow around her was warm, not cold like before, and her eyes were full of something Alara had never seen before. Joy. Alara, she said softly. You've learned to listen. Alara smiled, her voice trembling. I wasn't sure you'd come back. I never left, Ari said. You simply needed to hear in a different way. Alara gestured toward the screen. The signal. It's changing again. It feels alive. Ari stepped closer, her movements fluid and graceful. It is alive. You gave it life when you began to see it not as data, but as presence. You reached a level of awareness where your thoughts and the universe are no longer separate. Alara looked at her with wide eyes. What does that mean? Ari smiled faintly. It means humanity is beginning to speak in the oldest language of all, the language of resonance. You are learning to communicate through understanding itself. Alara felt a lump in her throat. Is that what you wanted me to find? Ari shook her head gently. It was never about what I wanted. It was about what you were ready to see. You humans look at the stars and search for others, but you rarely realize the universe has always been within you, listening. Alara looked down, her fingers tracing the edge of her desk. So all this time, we've been waiting for someone to talk to us and we just needed to listen differently? Yes, Ari said. The cosmos speaks in reflection. When you send curiosity into it, you receive wonder. When you send fear, you receive silence. It mirrors you perfectly. They stood quietly for a moment, the only sound the soft hum of the machines. Then Alara said, You told me others have heard this before, other civilizations. What happened to them? Ari's expression softened. Many reached too far too fast. They tried to control the resonance instead of becoming part of it. They wanted to shape the universe before understanding it. But your kind, she paused, smiling. You approached it with awe. That is why you succeeded. Alara felt a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she realized what made humanity special wasn't technology or strength. It was humility. The ability to wonder, to question, to feel small and still keep asking why. What happens now? Alara asked quietly. Now, Ari said, you will teach others to listen. Alara blinked. Me? Yes, Ari said. The resonance is strongest through the one who first opened it. You are its bridge, but you cannot do it alone. Others must hear it too. Share what you've learned, not through machines or formulas, but through feeling. Let them feel the pattern. Alara looked doubtful. People won't believe me. Ari smiled knowingly. Then don't tell them to believe. Let them experience. When enough minds listen together, the resonance will strengthen. It will connect your world to the greater field. And when that happens, humanity will no longer be alone. The words filled the room with a strange, quiet power. Alara sat back, trying to take it in. She imagined people around the world, scientists, poets, children, sitting beneath the same sky, closing their eyes, and feeling the hum that had been there all along. Maybe they would hear it too. Ari moved to the center of the room. Can we? Glow around her grew brighter, soft but steady, filling the space with warmth. The bridge is open now, she said. You have already changed the night forever. Alara's eyes glistened. Will I see you again? Ari's expression turned gentle, almost maternal. You will see me everywhere. In the patterns of light, in the quiet moments between thoughts, in the stillness when you breathe. The universe and I are one and the same, and now so are you. The light shimmered, rising like a sunrise caught in motion. Alara shielded her eyes, and when she lowered her hand, Ari was gone. But the room wasn't empty. The air hummed softly, vibrating like a chord still ringing. The screens were filled with light, not graphs, not equations, but pure resonance, shifting in shapes that looked almost like music. Alara stepped closer, tears stinging her eyes. She reached out and placed her hand on the console. The light brightened under her touch, responding instantly, warm, alive, familiar. It was like the universe was holding her hand back. She didn't need to speak. She didn't need proof. She knew. For the rest of the night, she sat in silence, watching the waves of resonance move gently across the screens. The hum wrapped around her like a song without words. At dawn, she stepped outside. The world looked the same. Mountains, snow, wind. Yet everything felt different. The air seemed more vibrant, the colors sharper. Even the silence sounded alive. Alara took a deep breath and closed her eyes. For a moment, she felt the entire earth breathing with her. Oceans, forests, cities, people. Every thought, every feeling, every hope resonating softly into the fabric of the universe. The hum answered her, low and infinite. That morning, Alara sent her final log to the research network. It wasn't a paper or a technical report. It was a message. We are not alone. The universe has been listening all along. All we ever needed to do was listen back. She didn't expect anyone to believe her, but maybe someday, someone would read her words and start listening too. That evening, as the sky darkened again, she stood by the observatory dome. The first stars appeared one by one, and the signal pulsed softly behind her in rhythm, steady, peaceful, alive. Alara smiled. "Good evening, Ari," she whispered. The signal pulsed twice, 2 gentle beats like laughter, and somewhere beyond the galaxies, beyond the edges of knowing, a chorus of resonances answered back. 1,000 voices across light years, greeting a small blue world that had finally learned how to speak. Humanity had not conquered the stars. It had joined them, and it all began the night she knocked once, walked in, and changed the night forever.